You're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy, a podcast on how to be more efficient
And effective in everyday life. Hey everybody, and welcome to InfoQuench. On this exciting episode, we are going to be talking about what we are currently watching or what we have recently watched on Netflix.
We love our Netflix.
We do love our Netflix. And you know what we will end up doing is we'll end up just watching a show and we'll watch it pretty much religiously until it's done, until it's over. Because we want to know how it ends.
We love binge watching.
We do love binge watching, and it's probably not healthy because it's you don't want to be sitting on the couch for hours just watching television. But some of these shows are so good, and some of them are so bad that they're worth watching. You
know what? Maybe they'll come out with a new study that'll say, you know what, binge watching is great. It's so healthy.
That's
right.
It's
good for your mental health.
If you're binge watching, you're going to live until you're 250.
That's right, because your mind will just be in like a little bit of a semi-comatose state of binge watching bliss.
It's let's talk about that for a second. Why do we binge watch shows in general? Why do we do it? I think it's because it's television, whether you want to admit it or not, is a bit of an escape. Right?
It is. It's a mental escape. When you're watching something, you're focused so much on that fictional or whatever it is, the story that is not your own,
right, that
you can, if you have anything going on in your own life, you just leave that behind for a little bit and delve into.
Sometimes though, when you're watching a show, you can watch the characters or the situations that are happening in a particular show and adopt it to your own life. You say, well, you're watching some show that's way out of your lifestyle, and you're like, oh, so that's how those people live.
Oh, yes.
I
think you're, and when you say those people, are you talking about the Real Housewives?
They live quite extravagantly.
They do.
That from what I've seen.
I want to do a future episode just on reality TV because that is my personal, guilty pleasure.
But it's not guilty because you're sharing it with the world right now.
Oh, yeah. You know
guilty.
What? I've dropped the guilt.
I know. That's what I mean. What is there to be guilty about?
It's for whatever reason, I think that there is a big portion of the population that feels that reality TV is just that lower version of television. Although it's the majority of television now. Survivor, I think, was probably one of the first
reality shows, no question.
And people they weren't embarrassed about watching Survivor. But then when more and more reality TV came out, Jersey Shore, all of a sudden there became a bit of a stigma around people watching it.
I know someone who shall remain, nameless, who loves to watch Big Brother, but scoffs at any other show. What are you doing watching this garbage? Well, what are you doing watching your garbage? Everybody's watching garbage.
We are really judgy. We're judgy about what people watch, aren't we?
I don't know why. Who cares?
I actually know somebody who pays and subscribes to the Big Brother feed. You can pay and watch
I've known people
the
who do
24/7 feed.
Yes, and you just watch these people you don't know live their lives in the hopes of finding out their strategy for the upcoming show.
It's just the ultimate in voyeurism, isn't it?
I guess so. I don't know. And escapism. No question is escapism. Because really, I mean, let's be honest. All reality shows, almost all, I guess that's a pretty broad statement, but it's a waste of time. It is wasting time.
Is it a waste of
time? But
time?
enjoying it at the same time.
Why is that a waste of time, but for instance, listening to classical music isn't a waste of time?
Well, I don't know. I just find that when you're watching, what are you getting from it? What are you getting from watching reality programming on television? Like, what do you leave with? Nothing but entertainment, correct?
Well, sometimes I learn things.
What do you learn? Tell me.
Well,
I want to know because I don't learn anything from these shows.
Maybe some beautiful islands I'd like to visit.
Yet I watch them, but I don't learn a single thing. So really, in that respect, is what I'm talking about. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time.
I don't view it that way.
It's entertaining, but it's a waste of time.
Life is about pleasure too and entertainment. So defining waste of time.
If you don't have to learn things in order to really enjoy a program.
It's like if you're reading a certain book Like if you're reading Danielle Steele, is that a waste of time? But if you're reading a classic, though, that's time well spent. I don't know. I feel like we're just too judgy.
Well, I know. That's just my personal, like, this is what I feel like when I'm watching these shows. I'm thinking, wow, why the heck am I watching this show? Because I feel like it's a bit of a waste of time. Really, because it doesn't change my life for the better in any way whatsoever. Do you know? Aside from the fact that you watch these rich people just do like extravagant things that you would never be able to do, like take private jets and spend money like it's going out of style, where there's a world where 99% of the people don't live like that. So you're just a voyeur. You brought that up earlier, and that's the way I feel about it when I'm watching it. I can't speak for anybody else.
I guess I see if you get enjoyment out of it, it really just, it isn't a waste of time.
Right.
I mean, that's what life's about. It's about, doing things that give you pleasure, give you enjoyment. And if reality TV does it, if reading Danielle Steele does it, if listening to bad music does it,
right,
then, so be it.
Yeah. Everybody has their own preference and stuff. And I'm not watching these programs with like a gun to my head or anything. I'm doing it willingly. But at the same time, I still truly feel like I don't learn anything unless one thing that I do enjoy doing is dissecting as to how they put these shows together. While I'm watching, I kind of find that interesting. What is scripted? What isn't?
Yeah, I also think about that when I'm watching them. Something interesting that you just said, though, was that I don't learn anything from it. So you're not seeing it as a waste of time.
Right.
And I'm wondering where it's ingrained in us or how that becomes, a value that we hold, that if we have to learn something for it to be.
It can be mindless watching and not really ever have any expectation of learning anything. But personally, I would rather learn something. When I'm watching, for example, a hockey game, I'll learn something. Every game, I'll see how the referees called a certain call or something, or why that was a goal and why it wasn't a goal. But what does that do? That's pointless too for me.
Well, I mean, people spend hours watching fictional movies.
Am I like a television anarchist who watches television?
If you went to the theater and watched a Broadway show, what are you learning from that, and how is that different?
Well, it depends on what you want to pay attention to learn about, right? You can learn how the show's put together, just like I mentioned with the reality shows. It's interesting to me to see, okay, well, how did they, when you're watching these particular shows, I'll just do a little aside, like when they're looking out a window longingly and stuff, and we're meant to be, we are in that room, and we just happen to be there at this special moment, whereas it took like hours of production to do that, and it was like, no, you're too close to the window, move back, okay, all right. It's all sort of scripted, and it just, I don't know what it is about it, but it just bothers me. I don't know.
I think we need to do a little bit more of a deep dive on another episode just around why this bothers you.
Okay, let's do it.
And around reality TV in general. And maybe why certain things qualify as being time well spent and not. Well wasted.
Right.
Was it A&E? A&E was always time
well wasted.
So
yeah.
It's interesting. I feel like a lot of people harbor guilt around this. I know, even bringing up conversations of, if I mention 90 Day Fiancé, some people out there will know exactly what I mean.
And some people will cringe and go, no.
Well, I think probably if they know what I mean, they're watching it. So, and secretly
or
they want to talk about it, and
right.
And but other people might.
That happened to you tonight with my sister when you guys realized that you have that, that
yeah, we
connection.
Watched a whole group of shows that were. So then all of a sudden it was a good conversational.
That was really interesting to watch, because you guys you were like, "Whoa, we can talk about this stuff." It's almost like you were the Handmaid's Tale. You just had these secrets that you had to share. I don't even know if that's true. I don't know if I haven't read the book.
So, maybe like you had this reality TV version.
I can't wait for that. Yeah, the Handmaid's Tale, The Bachelor season 4, whatever.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the shows we watched recently on Netflix, and we'll give you our quick take on them, and maybe you want to check them out, or if you have any of your own comments or reviews, we'd love to hear from you on some of our social media.
Yes,
either on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We watched a couple of comedy specials recently.
We watched them tonight, yeah.
Yeah, so Amy Schumer.
What was the comedy special called?
That one's called Growing.
Growing, because she's pregnant. Right.
And Amy Schumer's an interesting... she was actually... This particular special was recommended to us by friends. And I had a bit of a... Not a hate on, that's a strong word. But I didn't really want to...
I know where you're going. Is it because she supposedly stole those jokes?
Yeah. So there was a thing going on online probably a year or so back where she had stolen a lot of her material. So they would show clips of other comics doing the joke, and then they would show her doing the same joke. And that really rubbed me the wrong way, to the point that I didn't have any interest in watching her.
Me too.
And our friend's argument was that, a lot of jokes, I guess a lot of joke theft.
Everything's recycled. Music, comedy, dance, whatever.
So I decided to give her another try, and I'm happy I did. I really enjoyed this one. It was, hopefully it was original material. It seemed to really...
I hope so, too, as well, yeah. You never know.
It seemed to be specific to her situation, about her current pregnancy, about her husband, her personal life, her...
She pulled no punches, really. It was very raw.
It was. And it was crass. You expect a little bit of that from Schumer. Yeah. I mean, she's known for that. She puts herself out there, and I have a lot of admiration for that.
No question.
She actually pulls up her dress. I mean, spoiler alert, but she actually pulls up her dress at one point. So, and she's just comfortable in her own skin. Yeah. And I think I can admire that.
I find her funny. She has very good, overall, I feel she has some great jokes. Sometimes her delivery, I'm not a big fan of. Whereas the other special we watched, Gaffigan, I love his delivery. He goes back to old jokes and stuff. And I guess actually Amy Schumer did that as well. But I don't know. I just didn't find her as funny as Gaffigan. Let's just say
she's a little bit more in your face.
She is,
and she does go a little bit for the shock humor.
Yeah,
but she also has some depth to it too. When she talked, basically alluded a bit to the Me Too movement.
Yeah,
she talked about her arrest around Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation, and it's interesting too, given who her father is.
I know he's a very high sitting Democratic guy in the House, I do believe.
Yes. So So her father's a Democrat in American politics. So it must be an interesting conversation around the family dinner table at Thanksgiving about her comedy specials and her commentary on politics and how that reflects on him.
I would guess that they probably don't even discuss it because it's so. Although who knows? Maybe she has a very, very open family.
So I mean, overall, I enjoyed her special. I think it was. Like I said, it's a bit crass, it's a bit in your face, but there's some powerful messaging there too, and it didn't feel like the jokes were stolen. Like I said, it seemed a little bit more authentic.
I agree, yeah.
A little bit more personable. So I enjoyed it. So I think if you were put off by that whole stealing jokes news cycle that went on a while back, maybe give her another try.
Yeah, I give her another try. Why not?
The other comic that we watched tonight, we've watched a lot of, I think all of his specials on Netflix we've watched, is Jim Gaffigan.
He is funny, and he has the same sort of delivery. He does this thing where he talks to himself, like he talks for the audience.
Right. Or like almost like in a third person.
And you would think it would get old. You really do. You would think, oh, well, yeah. What do you mean, Jim? Like the way he does that. I mean, it's still kind of funny. It's still funny.
And he doesn't overdo it. He puts it in here and there. So this special is called Noble Ape.
Noble Ape.
And he talks a bit about his wife recently dealing with a brain tumor and that whole process. And what I love about him is he and his wife are a team in this. So a lot of comedians.
She's an executive producer.
Well, yeah, and they work on the material together. They travel around the world together. He talks about an international tour they did with their 5 kids.
I can't believe that.
I can't even imagine.
I know he's got some great jokes. And I think one of the greatest things about him as a comedian are his jokes have a universality up to them, you know? Like, it could be anybody, even though if you don't have 5 kids, the way he explains his jokes or presents his jokes about having 5 kids, you're right there with him. You've got those 5 kids, the way he explains them. And I love that about his comedy.
And he doesn't have to resort to, you know, swearing or just just full on. You know, we all know the comedians that just
facial expressions and they're so subtle, but so great.
Some
so
comedians
well done.
have to feel like they have to take it over the top in order to make their information or their act, you know, memorable. But I think he just has good quality in his material. You can tell he puts a lot of work into it to put it together.
I really like comedy that pushes the boundaries of, you know, comedy in general, like Lenny Bruce. But I find that a lot of comedians, that is their thing. They take it too far, and it just gets old sometimes, you know? Like, it's just the way that they do it and how crass that they get loses me as a listener.
I noticed that recently with... near the end of Louis C.K.
Louis C.K., yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously he's a fallen comedian now, where it's not, I don't think he's on many people's radar. We used to be big fans, but even near the end of it, before all of this came out, and he fell from grace, I guess, when some of the truth of how he conducted himself came out, his material was getting repetitive.
Yeah, and he was pretty crass as well, which I usually don't have a problem with, but yeah, I don't know what it is, but certain comedians can go too far and they lose me. And do you find that?
Yes.
That way, yeah.
Yes. I mean, I always appreciate when you watch a special where you know that the information's been well researched, well rehearsed.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you feel like it would be more entertaining if it seems off the cuff, but I appreciate the depth of
we should watch some George Carlin. That's what we should do. Have you seen any of his specials?
I've seen a lot. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, making sure, because he is the ultimate, for me anyways. He's one of the ultimate thinkers, comedian. Like, you really think about what he says, because he talks about a lot of world issues that were happening at his time.
Well, he talks about stuff.
Stuff. I love that bit.
The whole KonMari series of our episodes.
Yeah,
but he does definitely talk about it.
Yeah,
he has a whole bit on stuff.
What's your house? Your house is just a place for your stuff. Wow, I actually sounded like him a bit there.
Yeah, well done.
Just toot my own horn.
So, those are a couple of the stand-up comedians that we saw. So, Amy Schumer's Growing special, and then Jim Gaffigan's Noble Ape. So, if you want to check those out, I think it's time well wasted. Another one that we watched is called Dirty John.
Dirty John, right. And
again,
we thought we watched the wrong one.
Well, recommendations from our friends came on this particular one, Dirty John. So, yes, I think our friends were actually watching one that had multiple episodes, so it's the drama
It's
version.
the series, and we watched the documentary.
Yeah, which I think was about an hour and a half. So
which had a lot of reenactments as well, you know?
It did, and it was, you got the full story in a short period of time. Apparently, from what I've heard, the drama version is more entertaining, so we weren't aware that there were even 2 versions.
No, we just started watching one.
So I guess that's just a heads up. If people are talking about Dirty John and you want to check it out, just be aware that there are the 2 versions, and you can decide how much time you want to invest in it. It's an interesting story, though.
Yeah, it is. This guy, he had a penchant for just being mean to people over and over.
And we don't want to give you any spoilers on it, I guess, but it really is. It's about it's somebody who's just really a hustling women, just a manipulative person who's trying to find ways to
get everything that he can out of people.
Yeah, just a leech.
Yeah, and just the lengths at which he goes to get what he wants is extraordinary.
So it is. It always fascinates me that people fall for these con artists.
I know. I don't.
But I mean, people are vulnerable, right? And they want to find love. They want.
Yeah.
They want to find that so much that they put themselves out there.
They do.
And So I guess, I guess that's how that happens.
I don't know. I don't know how it happens either, and it's so easy to just be ignorant and say, why didn't that person just get out of that situation? But it doesn't work that way. Once you're in, oftentimes you're in pretty deep, and it's hard. It's hard to climb out of that. And this documentary definitely touches upon that, and it's pretty powerful. Truly.
It is. And he went on, he did this for years, decades. Well over a decade. So
Dirty John.
Dirty John, check it out. It's interesting. Interesting little insight into this evil human being.
Yeah.
Another show that we watched was around the Fyre Festival.
Oh man, that one was I watched that before you did. And I think I might have told you a bit about it, didn't I?
Yeah, so
if
you're searching it on Netflix, it's Fyre, Fyre, and it's basically what's their? I'm just looking at their subtitle: "The Greatest Party That Never Happened."
Yeah.
No, I did event planning for a large portion of my career, so when Jeff told me about this, I found it just really fascinating.
Oh, I'm realizing that it's as talking about these shows, it's hard to talk about them and not spoil the show for people. I'm not certain exactly how to do that. You know?
the title of it, I guess, is a bit of a spoiler alert in that it's the party that never happened. But really,
that's in the tagline, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're not giving anything away. But really, this Billy McFarlane and he partnered with Ja Rule got together. Yeah. They were working on an app that was just really around how to book talent. So they were trying to promote this app, and it would help people book artists, musicians, or whatever they needed for their events. In order to get the word out about their app, they decided to do this Fyre Festival, which is going to be this huge event on a private island, formerly owned by Pablo Escobar.
Insane.
I don't know if you've watched Narcos, you'll be familiar with Pablo Escobar as being like the cocaine god from days past. But he had an island in the Bahamas, Norman's Key, I think it was called. And so they had this island as a location for the event. And again, I don't think that this is a spoiler alert. It comes out very early in the episode. A big part of how they promoted it was they got influencers on social media.
Instagram.
They had like the 10 of the top supermodels from around the world go down to do a promotional shoot on this island to promote this future festival and get them to post about it on Instagram.
And you can't blame them. They were just doing their job. They were just doing what they were paid to do, you know?
Well, and so they did like a burnt orange square, I think like just a solid orange square on Instagram, and they all sort of posted that same thing and then just sort of tagged Fyre Festival, and it got to the point that they actually sold out. It was 95% of their tickets within 48 hours. And these weren't cheap tickets. These tickets were going for thousands a piece. They were attracting the most elite,
rich
people who had money to waste.
People in reality shows usually.
So the whole, and I guess there's several documentaries that exist around this whole Fyre Festival, but there's this one we watched was the Netflix original, and it goes into just the overall planning or poor planning of the event, and what unfolds is really just astounding.
Yeah, it's something else.
It's astounding that
it's well worth watching, and I would bet that most of the people listening right now have already seen it, but if you haven't, definitely check it out on Netflix.
Yes, I mean it's it's fascinating to me that people would spend that much money to go somewhere without having the full detail. I think because we've done some travel tips episodes, and I just want to know every detail of where we're going. I want to check on flights, accommodations. So the fact that people are buying tickets and just blindly going to this festival without any background, and anyways, it is quite a SHIT show.
It's a trip for sure, yeah, and that as well. I just can't believe how badly people were fleeced into going to this thing.
And people gave the influencers a hard time for promoting it, but like you said, they're just
doing their job.
Right.
They get paid to do a job. They do it. It doesn't matter. If they were doing a job to promote a car and the car had a defect or something, it's not the model's or the influencer's fault.
That's right. That's a good analogy. And I actually think I noticed on Instagram in recent months that often when you see an influencer now doing certain posts, they'll identify it as being an ad or paid sponsorship. And I think a lot of that largely came from Fyre Festival or, similar incidents where...
Change the game.
Yeah, where influencers were being accused of, being liable for products that they were promoting that may not have, been legitimate. And
yeah. Now, if they knowingly went and modeled for this festival and knew that it was going to do what it did, then they could be liable and they could be responsible in some way for doing this. But otherwise, if they don't know, if you don't know, then you don't know.
No, exactly. If you're, like you said, if you're an actor in a commercial, you're not liable because that product from the commercial was promoting happens.
Right, exactly.
Fail. You have, absolutely no impact on that. So it just is an interesting discussion on the power of influencers and what their responsibility is to their followers and to the general public. So, if you haven't watched it yet, give it a watch.
Give it a.
And it's actually inspired what our next episode is going to focus on event planning. So I mentioned that I do have a strong background in event planning, just in my day job.
Right.
And I'm going to talk about some tips around event planning, everything from people, something that might be useful if you're just doing an actual wedding to, or a birthday party to even larger events that might be at a business scale level.
Yeah.
So we'll go into that in the next episode.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. You can find InfoQuench on Facebook and Instagram, everywhere.
That's right. And hop on that Netflix guilt-free. Binge away, my friends. Binge away. It's time well wasted. Goodbye.
Thanks so much for listening.
And be sure to visit us at InfoQuench.com to subscribe and find out about future episodes.
You can also check out InfoQuench on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Till next time, friends.